Okay, friends, hopefully we won't have any technical difficulties today. Welcome to another episode of the Eurasian Ideas part of the Tim Kirby Russia Universe Project, or whatever we want to call this, which is growing. We're even going to expand this podcast to becoming a pure audio thing. So today, please forgive me if I get a little bit descriptive, because thanks to a fan, we're going to be trying to spread this podcast around the audio world. So I need to start thinking more in terms of audio than visual. Then again, this is never a very visual thing. Our topic today is based on a sort of comment I had for someone who commented on the Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore Telegram channel, the epicenter of our universe here, and basically he said something to the effect of, like, he's married, but his wife doesn't want to have kids, and there's some issues with, like, moving to Russia. But anyways, long story short, I kind of just was like, dude, the whole point of marriage is to have kids. And he said, no, I totally disagree with that, blah, 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 blah. And so that's where we are today. I thought that covering maybe marriage and family stuff would be interesting for our Eurasian ideas sort of sub-program, because I'd like to answer this person, but you know what, as Alex Jones said, it's much better to make a video that answers 50,000 people than to sit there and answer one person's question. So today I'm going to try to get into why I think that the whole point of marriage, even going into the future, the core point, I should say, not the whole point, that was the wrong thing, the core or primary function would be a better way to say it, of marriage, is children. So I'm going to pull up one little example here that I think we're going to be using a lot. But I think it speaks to a good point as to why I think this is the case. And I disagreed with this person who said, no, marriage is about something to do with God and bonds and all this other stuff. But he's a Lutheran. So again, if you want to then take an Orthodox view. So I'm not coming from the Orthodox perspective, more of the political future and effectiveness sort of standpoint, more so than an Orthodox standpoint. If you want to talk or hear about someone who can very, in great detail, describe the Orthodox positions on marriage and sex and all that other stuff, you should check out Father Peter. I want to say Father Feeders. Father Peter Hears. Hears is spelled Heers. You should check him out because he does an absolutely fantastic job of explaining stuff like that. The problem is, guys, you are not going to like a lot of his answers. They're hardcore, but that's the way it is. So I'm not coming at this from a priestly standpoint because I'm not in the clergy. I'm coming at this from a little bit of an effectiveness standpoint. So let me bring up this example that I wanted to show you all if it will work. Oh my gosh, it even worked. Okay, so here we have three families. Now, two of these families are from two groups of people that definitely, let's just say, raise some eyebrows, can be the butt of jokes on Family Guy and various cartoon shows, this, that, and the other. But I wanted to talk about these families you're seeing on the screen. I'll describe them for our audio-only listeners. In the upper left, we have an Amish family. We got the husband and the wife and 5 kids. In the upper right, we have a Hasidic Jewish family, presumably in New York somewhere. And there's actually 4 kids. As you can see, there's one kid kind of exploding out from behind the baby carriage there. So there's 4 kids. The wife and the husband, they don't look particularly old either. Both couples, in fact, the Amish people still look like they're in their 20s. The Hasidic Jewish couple looks to be, I don't know, maybe 30, 32, something like that. And at the bottom of the screen, we see an old believers family in Russia. And there's the husband and wife, and they have 6 kids, but only 1 son. Guess who's going to be chopping a lot of wood in winter? The one lone son is going to be making that axe fly. So that's unfortunate for him that he's the only one. But anyways, why do I bring this up? Because all 3 of these groups have something in common. Number one, well, they have a pretty low divorce rate, and also a very low rate of people losing the faith. With the Amish, their divorce rate is, I don't know. I tried to find that out. Couldn't find out. I'll put it this way. It's super duper mega low. But the amount of Amish people who sort of give up on the faith is about 1 in 6 or 1 in 7, depending on who you ask. So essentially, if this woman was to have, this Amish woman here was to have one more child, or maybe you should say 2 more, there's a chance that one of them might actually leave the faith. However, the others would remain in the faith, and they would get married and have about the same amount of kids, more or less, depending on God's will, their health, so on and so forth. Now, if we look at the Hasidic Jewish family here, there are very few divorces in the Hasidic Jewish community. In fact, less than 1/10 of marriages for them ends in divorce, and I think it might even be less than like 1 in 20, to be honest. So do not really get divorced. People leave the Hasidic Jewish faith also about 1 in 10 bails on it. Also very demanding sort of religious background there, and so about 1 in 10 bails. So this lovely couple here in New York, they can be pretty sure that mathematically, at the very worst, one of their kids will leave the faith there. Okay. Going on to then the Russian Old Believers family. I don't have too much statistics on them. But again, when we come to Orthodox Christianity, the demands of it aren't as maybe intense. Even if you're really hardcore, they're not quite as intense as, say, the Amish or the Hasidic Jews, because they there's a bit less law, and also you sort of get to the point where if someone is Orthodox and extremely lazy, who, like the person who's appearing on your screen right now, you can still kind of be in the Orthodox community, but be a little bit bad at it, you see? So that's kind of the portrait I wanted to bring up with these 3 families. I think really proves a point. Because, well, it's interesting how all of them got married really young. That's kind of curious. I wonder why they all got married so young. In fact, I wonder why so many traditional religions push people to get married young. I wonder why. Maybe it's because the younger you start, the more kids you can have. Can you believe that? Isn't that interesting? Because although a lot of people don't know, generally if a woman has her first kid at about 35 years of age or older, first off, she's only going to have time to have like 2 kids. And secondly, she's at more risk of having her first child. So not only does having children when you're younger mean you can have more children, but there are also less risks of various birth defects and other problems, and problems with the birth itself, so on and so forth. I believe the term for that is geriatric pregnancy, which you can look up online on your own. So going back to sort of the point of the family and the primary purpose being children, I brought up these 3 groups because we'll put them back on the screen for those again. The Amish, the Hasidic Jews, and the Old Believers here in Russia, and a lot of non-Old Believers as well, is because they're winning. These population groups grow. They have way more children than they have adults. They are growing. They pass down their traditions to their children. These people are essentially defying the diseases of postmodernism that are destroying everyone else. Because our Lutheran friend, who was really advocating that marriage is some sort of man-woman God bond, something or else or the other, essentially, when marriage becomes not about the primary purpose of, getting together, building this household, and then having kids, well, what happens? You have way less freaking kids. And in fact, then you have also way more freaking divorce, and you have a lot more problems. Because if we organize marriage to be something of the sort of Disney Hollywood variety, right, where it's all about love, this, that, and the other, especially love in a secular sense, well, that's why there's so much divorce, because people get married over the thing you do in their pants twitching because it wants some contact, and they get excited, and then someone gets pregnant, and then maybe they have 1 kid, they break up, and most men are sort of programmed to be a little bit, let's just say, skeptical about taking on other people's kids. That isn't to say it doesn't happen every day, but it's definitely puts the woman who already has kids in sort of a lower desire category for most of men, making things very difficult. So if we're going to say that marriage is about some sort of where love is primary or some other bullshit, essentially we've doomed our society to die. Because a society where people see marriage as, okay, I'm a man, I'm an adult, I need to become somewhat successful, organize a house, I'm going to take this woman, and then she's going to have the kids that are going to maybe take care of us when we're old. The whole point of this is that we're supposed to, this is how we continue society, this is how we, both of us, contribute to society, this is sort of our duty. Then you see that people have a bunch of kids, and they don't get divorced. And shockingly, these kids tend to carry on the ideas and faith of their parents, so on and so forth. So essentially, again, this isn't coming from a quite religious argument here, but the person who made the claim that marriage is not primarily for the purpose of having children, well, if you think it's going to be something else, like I said, you're going to have to get used to the idea of having a lot of divorces, and you're going to have to get used to the idea of losing, because that is a losing perspective. Because again, groups that don't share that perspective, their population increases. And if you haven't noticed, big populations yield power. And that's the simple answer to it. If you stop having kids, especially, let's just say hypothetically, the entire Protestant country, A, B, C, D, F, G. In fact, well, basically all the Protestant countries have already done it. They've all basically shifted over to this concept that marriage is about the sensations between your legs, and that's it. And shockingly, none of them have kids. And they have a ton of divorces, and nothing works anymore. And society doesn't function. So as we can see that when we got away from this idea that marriage is some sort of, I don't know, duty or function of societal harmony and organization, when we got away from that, we really just started to destroy ourselves. So to that person who left that comment about marriage being about love, again, your position is the position of a group of people who will go extinct, because that just simply doesn't work. It is not viable. It is not effective. Because again, the amount of Hasidic Jews and Amish people, although they seem like they might be small overall, boy, do they keep growing and growing and growing, while other people do not. Old believers as well. Now, the second thing is that I mentioned, and I corrected myself, that the primary function of marriage should be to have children, right? But just like things like a bayonet, the primary function is in theory to use as a melee weapon on a gun, but throughout history we've seen that a lot of soldiers can use their bayonet to cook with, or open a can, or pry something, or cut something, or do a whole bunch of other stuff. Anything you could think of that you can do with a knife, you can do with a bayonet. So the primary purpose of the bayonet is as a weapon. However, it has many secondary purposes. You could say the same thing about a car. The primary purpose of a car is transport. I think that's one that's very universal. We can agree on that. But can you also, if you're outside, could you also go sit in your car to talk on the phone and use your car as essentially a phone booth? Yes. Could you maybe store things that you might need for the near future in the trunk of your car? Say you live in an apartment building in Moscow. Very often people might keep things in their trunk that they might need, tomorrow. Why drag it up to the apartment when I could just leave it in the trunk? So it's almost like it's a storage space. Of course, that's not the primary purpose of it. People don't go to their Lada dealership because they want a rolling storage space. They want transport. Okay, so an idea can have primary and then secondary and tertiary and whatever other functions. And I think marriage can have the same thing, because one of the arguments this person brought up about the way marriage could look is it's like, well, what about old people who can't have children? Well, that's where I think we get into then the secondary functions, whereas it's sort of a mutual, the system that especially was in medieval times. Although there was no real name for this, generally medieval times were very based on inter-responsibilities between people within families. I see someone has their hand raised. You're going to have to wait a while before you can join the show. So in a lot of ways, you sort of create this sort of, safety unit when you're old. Like you have two people who are sort of maybe in their 60s, both their spouses are dead, and they can both sort of, balance each other out, where a guy is like, well, I still have some income, and I can still do some of the more physical stuff that she can't, and she cooks and cleans, and you kind of can find this let's just say, teamwork in the second half of your life, especially if your spouse is gone or previous marriages didn't work out or whatever. So obviously, there is some room and some purpose for marriage for people who might be old and too old to have children. But again, if we go back to this modern Disney idea that marriage is about love, and some 20-year-old guy has some fantasy about a 50-year-old woman like Macron, for example, well, then they're not going to have kids, or if they do, their kids would be at an extremely high risk for birth defects and other such problems. So again, it might be, who knows, we'll take Macron. Maybe Macron loves his senior wife very much. maybe they are really best friends and all that. But again, they haven't contributed to society the minimum 2 children that you have to pump into society for it to at least stay afloat. You see what I mean? So again, if we orient, and this is the Eurasian ideas. So we're talking about what would things look like in this potential Eurasian future that all sorts of authors in Russia have looked at. And the main thing is that the idea has to be that marriage has to return to being a sort of societal function and a duty. How could that happen? Propaganda. That's where the media comes in, my friends. Because people emulate, copy, monkey see, monkey do what they see on the big screens. And for the most part, we generally see hedonism. That the point of relationships is, again, it's about banging. It's about sticking it in there and driving it home. That's the whole point of it. And again, that's not a very long-term, stable way of looking at things. And again, I bring up this example of these 3 sort of religious cultural groups, be they the Amish, the Hasidic Jews, and the Old Believers, who have triumphed over all this, and their system simply just works better. They win, we lose, and you've got to wake up to that. So if we're going to have a more Eurasian society, we really need to create the proper media, be they especially programs for the ladies, that more drive home the point of a more traditional marriage, about sort of what they're looking for. Also, getting the approval of people's parents. That's another thing that all those groups have in common, is their parents definitely have a say in the selection process of the spouse of their child, which is a huge deal. Because, again, young people tend to be a little bit ignorant, which is natural, because the less you've lived, probably the less you're going to know. How many wise 14-year-olds do you meet? Not a lot. So it definitely helps that the parents have some contribution. And maybe even for a Eurasian future of the future, we could, in theory, even make it so that way marriages don't happen without the parents signing off on it. Interesting. That's something we could definitely throw in there. But the real key thing is, again, is the propaganda. Because trust me, every woman in Russia has seen Sex in the Big City. And you can see the effects of it, especially in Moscow. Maybe not so more so out of Moscow, because women there sort of know they need help, especially financially. But inside of Moscow, where some women have inherited an apartment due to their grandmother dying, or they worked their entire youth rather than having children to be able to live in one-room shit shack that they were able to buy off with a mortgage. Got to convince them out of this lifestyle. We've sort of gotten used to a particular lifestyle, and it's going to take a lot of propaganda and carrots and sticks to get people out of it. When I very first got involved with that State Duma committee regarding the issues of immigration, well, one of the projects from the Fair Russia or Just Russia party, whichever way you want to translate it, is they wanted to provide every woman in the country, at least for now, that already has a kid with 90,000 rubles a month. So if you have kids, you just get $900 in cash every month to do whatever you see fit as a mom. Now, I know someone who's listening to this video they're going to immediately jump on the talking point but then that eliminates the need for a man. Oh my God, I'm so libertarian. Everything is about money. Well, first off, especially if the propaganda tells women they do need a man, because it is a heck of a lot easier raising kids as even with two people, let alone with the broader family and relatives and babushkas and all that stuff. So it's important, if they were to have that kind of plan, to make it clear that, first off, $900 is nice, and it definitely almost gives women a sort of more of a career function as being mom, which is another thing that for a Eurasian future. Because I kind of want to talk about feminism and the Eurasian future as a separate video, but we'll just touch this real briefly, that if there is going to be this different way of doing things in Russia, then we really have to then, again, think about the future and consider motherhood a profession. Because in a lot of ways, it's the most important profession. Look at crime statistics. They're related to broken families. When there's a strong family unit and mom and dad are doing what they're supposed to do, guess what? There's a lot less crime and other problems. So essentially, motherhood has become the least appreciated profession. In fact, it's not considered a profession, even though it's the most important one. It's just considered some sort of weird side gig for women who are working some sort of office job. Because, yeah, moving those Microsoft Excel documents, that's what's really important, not your children. But that's what we've been led to believe, even though it's insane, and which means if propaganda can lead us to insanity, I think that propaganda can lead us away from insanity. I bring up very often a show. It's called The Parents, and it is, I think, a triumph of making a show that my children beg to watch. And in it, the oldest son, he kind of starts, dating this girl, and then they get engaged and start living together, and then they actually have a kid. And so they really showed that the point of why he was with this girl was to be married to her, and they actually have a multi-generational household already. Impressive. Definitely a different, and they live in a house, not an apartment. Definitely a very interesting, different model. So, anyways, in fact, now whoever wants to call in, now would be a good time. And in fact, I wonder if there's any comments. I didn't even really look. I didn't even look. I just started. I didn't even tell people they could comment about this video. Oh, boy. Let's see. Let's see. I was impressed. What's the stream about? Oh, you should be watching it right now. I should agree they phase out on the previous. Okay, so remember, if you comment anywhere on Tim Kirby Russia Hardcore, it eventually all goes into one place called the chat, and I will see it. If someone wants to call in, which I think someone did, they can raise their hand and call in, because I think I basically touched on the overall talking points that I really wanted to express in this video that are even going into. Oh, and one more thing about the family structure, but feel free, you can raise your hand. That's important, is to mention that the nuclear family is not a traditional family. We see this everywhere, and it is an important false argument to get over, that we need to return to the nuclear family, the husband and the wife, especially women, when they were raising kids. In the olden days, they did it more as a group, or, life was a little bit more collective back then, especially in the more medieval world. And this idea of locking woman in box all day with the kids while husband is locked away in different box at work, and they're totally isolated from each other, and in some ways even isolated from other people. That is a thing of modernity. It takes a village to raise a child, as they say, and the nuclear family concept, that is not it. And especially because the nuclear family does not, it says no extended relatives. Every family unit is in this perfectly organized box. No cousins, no grandma, no. So the nuclear family is, again, some sort of weird, a lot of people who are more conservative and traditional, they look at this wow, what great times, the nuclear family. The nuclear family was in a lot of ways the beginning of the end. It was the transition from this medieval family sort of structure, jumping right into a structure that was very nicely suited to the Industrial Revolution and the modern era of its time. So, yeah, I think that's another thing that we really have to sort of break the spell of that. Another thing also, too, about the family of the future, and thank goodness this is kind of happening on its own, is the increase in houses as opposed to apartments, because having children in apartments makes it much harder to have more children. It's hard to have a big family in an apartment. All of a sudden, things seem a lot more cramped. It's kind of surprising where if I think about the apartment where the kids live versus my house, in theory, they have 50% more space there, but it feels like there's 50% less. Just because there's like no outdoor zone, you know what I mean? So, again, that's another factor about the family of the future. So the Eurasian family of the future really needs to be living in a house, no matter where that is, whether it has access to cities or not. Another thing about the future is that thankfully the new culture of working from home has come into existence. And there's really no reason that dad, especially, can't make money from home and be the breadwinner of the family and yet live somewhere nice and somewhere pleasant. I think for a lot of professions, this idea that you have to live in the city and you have to be packed into this area, that's all kind of being phased out with time. There. I think those were all the points I wanted to cover. As you know, I don't use notes. So anyways, Angelo wanted to talk. Angelo, you're on the air whether you like it or not. Angelo, unmute yourself, and you had something to talk about. Let's get away from my main topic and get into our Q&A, preferably about the Institute of Marriage and what it would look like in a beautiful, sparkling Eurasian future. Can you unmute yourself? There we go. We got something. Right. Hello.
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 Sorry about this.
It's okay.
Just got into your... Hello.
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, very interesting what you had said about the nuclear family. It just popped in my head. I didn't think about that. Like, you see the parents, they live with their children, like you were saying, but also they abandon their parents, the elders, throw them in a home somewhere and live thousands of miles away, separate. And you don't have that connection anymore with family. Just abandon them, and it's like they treat it like it's a burden or something.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, dude. Totally. I'm having some weird technical difficulties here, which is kind of strange. I don't know what happened. I'm for some reason not hearing you. Hold on, my friend. This is not good, especially for the audio podcast. Why is that happening? Let's see. Let me try again. Okay, so anyways, that's now working. Angelo, how about this? Although we could definitely hear my voice throughout the podcast. So, Angelo, your thing is that about the family of the future is you do not like that people sort of throw the elderly in the dumpster. Is that it?
Yes.
Okay.
Pretty much, just like in... Go ahead, sorry.
Yeah, you talk. I want to hear your opinion.
Oh no, yeah, because this is how, because I was this because my family's from Brazil originally, so we always grew up with taking care of our elders or being next to our elders and not just leaving them like hundreds of miles away in another state or in another province in another city like they do in the Western world, like in Europe and in North America. That's what I found very bizarre, like I stayed with my dad until he passed, so
Well, Angelo, you know what? I'm going to mute you here, not because you're a bad person, but because the background noises always ruin my train of thought. But you know one thing, I might be a little bit of a hypocrite here because on the one hand, I agree with you, but on the other hand, I think in a lot of ways my parents' future sort of lies there. But I definitely always want my own parents to know that when that moment comes, when they feel that they're sort of maybe in a helpless state, that they can always come here. But I just need a little bit of notice in advance because my house is way too small. But there's a thing called loans, and as soon as I pay off my mortgage, it'll be really easy to take out a new loan. So I agree with that, and I support that. But that's definitely one thing where when you start living a more international lifestyle and leave your country of origin, it gets harder to help out your parents. So in some ways, I'm kind of a hypocrite, and I have to acknowledge that in the stream. Yasmin is here, who's called in before. Hello, Yasmin.
Hi, Tim. I wanted to ask you about the Duma thing that you mentioned. So usually what happens is when the native population's fertility is low, there's always, and the focus, like the political focus becomes fertility, there's always the short-term desire to import high fertility populations that will, I think, in the long run, like make your country perhaps more chaotic. I'm wondering how Russia thinks about these things from the inside.
Well, generally, Russians themselves, I would say, are oh gosh, how would I even put it? I would say maybe soft against immigrant. The problem is, it's not a real topic that people discuss very much. To be honest, I mean, it comes up, but the problem is that the people who really want to talk about the immigration thing, well, they do say that there's all these people who are like the migrant workers who work on all these skyscrapers and all that. But for the most part, one of the big differences is that here, since life doesn't really provide much, there isn't really a nanny state. A lot of those guys leave. The overwhelming majority leave. There's a little bit of concern within certain halls of power that generally, of the people who actually do get citizenship, it's really, again, Central Asia. So it is sort of, but again, it sounds like I'm contradicting myself. So it is, a few 100,000 people from Central Asia every year. But they also always forget that a lot of these people are of various different ethnic backgrounds, including Russian themselves. That's number one. And number two, they're not that different from people here. And number three, a lot of them, the overwhelming majority of them don't want to get citizenship, and they want to use the money they have here to go back there. And also, there's things like in St. Petersburg, they basically, for the most part, banned all the migrant worker types, so it's hard to get deliveries there. So, I don't know. I don't think it's as big of a thing as maybe certain paranoid people would want to make it seem to be. But I can tell you one thing. Here's maybe something where it is different. Russians are 100% in force of a restrictive border, a border that has visas, where they check people. You never hear anyone in public criticizing the police for randomly checking the passports of people who seem to be foreign. So essentially, I don't know how to put it. It's kind of like maybe some of the policies that Trump would like to put in place already are in place in Russia, and overwhelmingly they're supported by the population. But at the same time, the population, the masses, cannot be expected to be wise and orderly and self-planning. And I think a lot of the efforts by the government to just sort of dangle some carrots and sticks in front of the population to give them the opportunity to pay down their mortgages by having kids, it's just not enough. It really isn't. Is there, or if your question was, is there some sort of population replacement going on here? No. Does Russia have the problem of there are vastly more positions, as in work, as in jobs, than there are human beings? Yes. Russia's essentially needs for human beings vastly outweigh the supply of people who are in the country. So there's that aspect of things. Anne wants to talk. And Yasmin, if that was a bad answer, you can always come back. And hello?
Hi there. Can you hear me, Tim?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay. Well, great to hear you, and a really wonderful topic. And let me just bring up a couple of global thoughts I have, because this has been a topic close to my heart. But, the reason you have kids is because you want something more to love. When you want children, you want to love them. And there's not enough outlet for love in life when there's just one person, I think. And people who don't have that desire to love, maybe shouldn't have a lot of kids. But this is something that is buried in our society. Money has replaced people and the need for people. When civilization, when we were growing up, or even 20, 30 years ago, people needed people, and so they got together. And the other thing I want to say about families is, people growing up in Europe and so forth, every weekend was spent with another family, with people, or an aunt or uncle or someone who was alone. And so I get back to the central point of love in our society. And money and the media and all of these things have relegated love to a lower level of importance than money and status and all these, and video games and all this stuff. So what goes around comes around. But I think what is a good topic, no one should be afraid of talking about, is our need to love. And if we can really express that, we'll all be happier and healthier.
No, okay. Well, here, let me get back to you on that there. So, Okay, there's actually a lot to break down there. So about kids, and you want to have love, so you have kids. Again, remember, since we are not of the same gender, things probably look very differently. So we have to always remember that. So I'm kind of hearing your words, and I think we actually agree on a lot of things, but your language is very, very female about these topics, okay? So I can tell you in more of a manly, cold way of looking at things, children really bind people together. You know, because think about this this way, okay? You have some couple that maybe they fell in love and they got married at like 20. I've seen this happen in Russia a few times. I've known a couple people who got stuck in this trap of they essentially fell in love with some guy, and a lot of times women will marry a younger guy based on potential, and he doesn't live up to that potential. And it's not like he's really done anything particularly wrong, but he kind of doesn't do anything. He's just kind of useless. So they're both like 30, no kids. All he does is play the video games or hang out with his buddies or drink or whatever. And if then marriage is just about love, he's going to be like, well, don't you love me? But, you know, honey, when are we going to have kids in this? But I don't want to have kids. I want to have fun. Don't you love me? And the thing about this whole love thing is, again, love is a feeling. And I know for women, feelings are very important. And who said this? This was Richard Cooper was the one who said this, that women's loyalty, number one loyalty, is to their emotions. That's number one. So feelings are, whereas for men, it's the opposite. Men always look at emotions as essentially a factory of lies. And so as a man, that is how I see emotions. So I really don't want to base my reality or our society on something that's kind of abstract or could be related to my own lustful desires or something. Love is a very weird, amorphous thing that unless we were to somehow like go back, because people always say in these like intellectual memes that like the Greeks had like 8 different words for love or whatever, and they're very specific. Maybe if we go back to that and we really break down these different types of love, for there being like sexual love, the love between like an old married couple which doesn't have the sex, the sort of love between family members, that invisible bond, the love that someone might have for a nation and ideas, being like these all sort of separate things. But unfortunately, in modern English and in modern Russian, we have one word for love, and it includes all of the above. And so it is a very, very bad word because it is certainly not specific enough, and I think it defaults to sex. So, but anyways, long story short, though, you did bring up the good point that children are, again, this glue, and why children are the primary reason to get married is because that marriage is successful. Because like that couple I described who are 30 years old, no kids, essentially they've both become miserable. Their marriage is ultimately pointless because they're just sort of like together. And what difference would it make? Like if they don't have kids together, right, and they don't have that sort of bond, like what difference does it matter? Just go around banging everybody. Who cares? There's no difference. It's the same thing without the children being involved, without the sort of dedicated thing where he has to provide and take care of the kids and this, that, and they have this big project called the kids that they have to do together, and then their kids have grandkids, and they have project grandkid. Otherwise, there's essentially no bond besides some legal documents that the government has that don't really matter for anything, especially in Russia. So, you see what I mean? There. So I kind of get what you're saying, but I think the way you worded it is so far into female universe that it's beyond my comprehension. You know, female universe is I can only like look at it from far away and pretend like I know something about it, but it's a totally different reality. So if anyone else would like to call in and talk, feel free to. There's actually a lot of people listening, which is always shocking to me. Like 20 some people listening. Holy moly. Wow. Let me check the messages here. If someone wants to call back in or would like to clarify their opinion or tell me to go F myself, that's fine too. More to love. L, I'm not... Okay. Just have... All right. Don't quite understand where that came from. That's an interesting comment. Some other comments are being typed as we speak. So, but anyways, guys, it looks like everyone... The calls are not a lot of them today. So anyways, guys, then if that is the case... I kind of want to see what this person, there's someone named Jim who's typing. That's a good generic name, Jim. I've known many a Jim over the years. It's kind of, but he just keeps typing, so that means it's probably going to be something. Oh, here we go. Nothing at all related to what we were saying. That's a shame. I was hoping for that one. But anyways, you guys can listen to my sort of summation here. If someone wants to call in, now would be sort of your last chance. But in short, like I tried to explain to one of our viewers there, that as you see, if we look at marriage as a sort of institute of society, if the purpose is not to have children, then society is going down, like we see in the West and a lot of places. Because one thing, guys, you have to remember is you're talking to someone who, although the people always ask, well, have you read all the works of Pushkin? No, I haven't. Have I seen every documentary movie that's ever been made in human history? Yes. Well, maybe not seen them. I've listened to them while cooking or cleaning. So, from the myriad of documentaries I've watched, I can tell you that there's a demographic crisis in Russia. So they say. When you go outside and walk around outside, it really doesn't seem like there is, but so they say. Okay? There is also supposedly one in South Korea, Japan, actually in China, because they have a massive gender gap between men and women, and there are like 400 million men who are never going to be able to actually like get married and have children. Like they're never going to have the chance to. Sam, I'll bring you on real soon. I want to just complete this thought. So you have South Korea, Japan. There's a Chinese population bomb. Thanks to Bill Gates and the abortion machine. Actually, India's family structure is starting to actually erode. Even though they have like the biggest population in the world, they're set to fall. The entirety of Western Europe is set to fall. Eastern Europe is in trouble. And no matter what people say, actually in a lot of the Middle East, things aren't going so well. The last real population bomb, they say, is Africa. But again, Africa has so much information made up about it that you really don't know. You really don't know. So essentially, also to remember that the United States and even Latin America is having problems. All over the world, if you sort of pick these little documentaries and articles out, the entire world, for the most part, even though the situations look a little bit different, is going through a population demographic collapse. Okay? And the answer is not more the same. More the same, more the I love you, you love me, Disney movie stuff. No work. Don't work, baby. Okay, Sam, you are on. Hello.
Господин Kirby, как вы поживаете?
Прекрасно. Okay.
Okay, cool. Hey, love your show.
Thank you.
Everybody support Tim Kirby with Boosty.
All right, you're doing it for me. Yeah, let's get
in the VK.
let's put a Boosty link on the main page here. Hold on. Let's anyways keep going. Keep trying to sell me.
Okay. What I want to know is how soon will it be till people can go buy Novorossiya land, which is the former Ukraine, or is it going to be for basically former military people? Do you predict it's going to be?
Oh man, that is really a good question. Well, you know what? Hold on. Let's go and use the magic of computers, and I can go check that now. But anyways, let's see. Hold on. Let's go back to the beginning of this thing. Let's see. Let's buy. Let's see. Let's just say buy a house, because to be honest, in that part of former Ukraine, I think there were really more houses than apartments. But anyways, we can change it. I am on the Sion website, and let's see if there's any offerings. Okay. Here we go. Okay. Is this in... come on, baby. Come on. Let's see. What does this place say? Rostovskaya Oblast. Officially, I'm not seeing anything then, because that's right on the border there. Wait. Hold on. Hold the phone. Yeah, Rostovskaya Oblast, Donetsk. Interesting. There must be two Donetsks then. Am I doing this wrong? Where's Big Donetsk? There can't be two Donetsks, because there's Lugansk and Donetsk is right down there. That's interesting. So they have no. That's the. Though there's two Donetsks. Okay. There actually is another one. That's interesting. Is this over the border? Hold on. Let's take a look. Sorry, guys. What I'm looking at here is I'm trying to see if there's anything for sale. No, unfortunately, I think it's a status of war. There's absolutely nothing for sale at this moment in the new territories of Russia. How the land is going to be divided is that's a complex issue. But I can tell you one thing, that since there's a few factors. And anyway, Sam, I'm going to then mute you, but I'll bring you back on later. So the first factor is that when the war started, the Russian government just wanted to, I think, make things a little bit easier on themselves. And they basically said anyone who has Ukrainian citizenship can apply for Russian citizenship without any sort of quotas or whatever. They're just like, whoever wants to come back home, just come back here by any means, be it through the European Union or if they took a flight to Turkey or whatever, escaped on a boat, who cares? Just come back somehow via Russia. And I think that that's somewhere around like 3 million people, and who knows, that number might increase. It might not. Who knows? Maybe everyone's happy in Europe. You never know. But essentially, you are sort of dividing all those places, all those locations within the Novorossiya into a couple of different categories. One is it was private, and it belongs to a private individual who now has Russian citizenship. Okay? And when Crimea was handed over, generally everyone who sort of had their claim and their documents in order, who got Russian citizenship, they got to take all of their real estate in the Crimea with them automatically, for the most part. Of course, there were some hitches, and I'm sure there were a couple shady people who were trying to manipulate their way into getting stuff for free. So I don't doubt that a few of those cases, maybe even a lot of them, came up. But ultimately, the proof is in the pudding. And if you're good at ratting people out to the presidential administration, you can get stuff done. But anyways, so we have this sort of first category of people. The more difficult category are the people who had private real estate in Novorossiya, who are either still in Ukraine or they left, but they are never going to ever be interested in becoming a part of Russian society, which of course they're free to do. You can't force people at gunpoint into your culture, right, Zelensky? Right? So, for those people, it's going to be hard, because then you sort of have to get in this thing of, it's like, well, what if tomorrow they change their minds? What if they actually were sort of in the process that they want to come to Russia, but it hasn't worked out, or they're kind of stuck somewhere and they can't do this, they want to do it later? You get in this weird gray area of, it's like, so whose land do you take? You know, who can you say, they definitely are never coming back, even though they have the right to, and we get to take their land? That I don't know. I think that that's going to be a very difficult situation. Sam, I'll bring you back. So we sort of have those two categories of people. Then you get into the third category of stuff that belonged to the state, or maybe people of like a special category, like people who are despised by the Russians, like Kolomoisky or something. That's all gone. That's all going to become the property of the Russian government and be divvied up. Will Russia do some sort of program where a lot of this stuff is going to be distributed to like the to the victor goes the spoils? I don't know. That might be too old school of a concept even for Russia, but they might do it. So I'm not really sure. I can tell you one thing is that the Crimea hasn't been completely like distributed to the military yet. There's plenty of stuff for sale there, and it's not all owned by army guys. So that didn't happen in the Crimea. But who knows, on the war front, maybe. One of the other problems too about buying stuff there is now that it's officially part of Russia, but obviously it's in a war zone. And I'm not also quite sure. Okay, so like I said, in Russia, it's very much a little bit accidentally libertarian. It's very much, you buy a house and it sucks. Buyer beware, that's your problem. Okay, that's more the way it is here. But there comes a point where it's like, buyer beware, but there's unexploded munitions on your lawn. I'm not quite sure when the Russian government, they might actually be at this point being like, guys, just stay out. just stay out, just wait. We'll deal with this later. So I'm not sure. But when Xi'an, the main website, the most powerful force in private real estate in Russia, has absolutely nothing for sale in Novorossiya, it leads me to believe that it's not an option. I can check Avito. Sam, how about you tell us your comment? And I'm going to go look on Avito to see if I can buy something here.
Yeah, I guess my concern is that even if you buy farmland in Russia, I don't really like their setup where they have everybody in the village all next to each other, and then the farmland is way out there. I think it's and you can't change, things maybe that have been going on for thousands of years or hundreds of years, but I think it's better for each family to have 100 acres and maybe have 400-acre plots with the homes somewhat close in the corners of the plots. But I think the collective farming layout that Stalin had, where everyone's in a dacha and then the farmland is out there, is just prone to more collectivization issues. What are your thoughts?
You mean collectivization issues now, or stuff from the past, or what?
Well, I mean what could happen is that because everyone is in the dacha and then the land can be owned by a big mogul, then it creates issues with wages and access to food and farming practices.
Well, first off, okay, so here's issue number one. Collective farming is dead. DEAD. Dead as a doornail. It is a corpse. It doesn't exist anymore. It is gone for all time. So any sort of concerns about like some sort of farming collective being violated is stuff in the past. Maybe the very, very, very absolute last collective farm might be Savkhoz imeni Lenina, that's to the south of Moscow, that used to be run by Mr. Grudinin, who ran for president and then got in trouble with a lot of scandals, probably because he ran for president, and got a lot of journalists' eyes on his dealings. But like, collective farms are gone. There is nothing, nowhere, no how. You just don't worry about that. So this idea of there's going to be this little collective farm and there's these independent farmers and then some guy buys all the land around them, that's not really the case. Now the thing is, because Russia is big, the more central part of Russia was the part that was medieval. So all the cities that you see that were formed recently, formed in, like, say, 1100 AD, 1000 AD, 1200 AD, that all went through the medieval times, they all have that structure of having generally a street that goes through the middle, maybe two, generally one, houses on both sides, all kind of cramped together, and then the mass farmland is a huge circle around them. That's a medieval structure, not a collective 1930s structure. That's why they are the way they are. And generally in modern times, most people only own the territory that their little house is on. But places that came into existence not in medieval times don't necessarily have that structure. So if you're talking about buying gigantic farmland for an affordable price and sort of building a homestead on it, that's when you have to get out of the medieval part of Russia to more like Siberia or other places in Russia that weren't extremely influenced by medievalness. And they're all going to have that. I mean, as I'm looking on Avito, although Avito is running terribly, there are apartments for sale in Mariupol. Okay, so I guess there's something. There's in the proper Donetsk. I got confused. In the proper Donetsk, there's apartments for sale on Avito. But remember, Avito is weird, and Avito is kind of like eBay. And it kind of has a lot of con artists on it. So I don't know how legit or good. Ooh, and a lot of these apartments, the only picture they have is like the, what's it called? The blueprints. That is not very convincing. But, yeah. So I guess there's some apartments for sale, but very, very few, and pretty much all in Mariupol. And like 2 in Donetsk. and that's about it. Maybe perhaps the reason for that is that Xi'an, although I don't know why they would care that much about being sanctioned, because they only really operate in Russia, but it could be a sanctions thing. They're afraid to offer apartments in Novorossiya, but they also offer apartments in Crimea, so I guess not. Maybe they just don't because they're concerned about con artists and stuff, or selling people something that's been destroyed or whatever. But yeah, so essentially, if you want to buy an apartment in Novorossiya, you have to live in Mariupol for now. There's very little else. So there's one in Lugansk. There you go. There we go. One little apartment in Lugansk. It's not even it looks more like a daycare center. So again, I don't know what to say. And it also says the address is in Donetsk, even though on the map it's in Lugansk. This is questionable. This is very, very questionable. I don't know. I'm guys. I don't know about all this. This is weird. I don't think that this is very legitimate. I didn't quite set up the computer today to do screen shares, so please forgive me that I didn't do that. But I think that's a bit off. But so anyway, Sam, maybe I guess I should do then one. Maybe I should do a screen share. Hold on, let's just try to get this onto the other screen, and hopefully it will not screw up. That would be bad. So let's do a screen share. Share screen 2. There we go. Okay. I don't know if you guys can even see this. I hope that's what you're seeing. But anyways, I just wanted to show that nothing is really available here in the middle of the country. But if you look here on Avito, there's a little bit of stuff. Like here's Mariupol, for example. But Avito is grinding, so we're not going to use it. Goodbye, Avito. Let's go to buy. Let's go to land. And let's, I don't know, let's go far, far away. To like the Altai Mountains or something. Okay. So here we are, something around, I don't know. No, Barnaul has a nice airport. So let's go to Barnaul and let's try to buy a big piece of land. Let's see more filters. So you want it to be big. So let's see. 100 sotok is a hectare. So maybe like 10 hectares would be 1,000 sotok. Yeah, because 100 hundreds is a hectare. So let's take 1,000. Let's see. There's a couple of these. So this is pieces of land over 10 hectares. Let's see what we have here. Oh, well, how about you? How about your work? Okay, there we go. So this is 23 hectares of land that's listed as single-family housing. Get out of here. No, there's something wrong with that. Get out of here. That is not true. That's a complete lie. There's no way that that exists. Here's 10 hectares. Not listed what kind of land it is, but there it is. And it only costs $18,000. So there you go. It's a big fatty. This is 10 hectares for like $6,000, but no pictures. That is a bad sign. Let's see. What is this? This is again supposedly for, oh, well, here's a more. So that's 17 million. So we take off 2 zeros. It becomes 1.7. So like $170,000 for basically an entire like pre-planned city, single family housing permitted. So you can buy your own pre-organized city. How about that? 22 million for something. DNP. Oh, that's more for like your DNP is more for like your family farms. Okay, so yeah, so that's basically how you could do it, and is unfortunately you can't really see on the map very well, but out here you're not getting into this like medieval Russia structures. Everything's kind of big and wide, and there's plenty to buy, especially by the highways, and there you go. So I think that demonstrated my purpose good enough. Stop sharing. So anyways, Sam, before we go, so hold on. So Yasmin wants to talk again. Hello.
Hi, Sam. Sorry, Tim. I wanted to ask about the upcoming Welcome to Russia online conference you guys have organized. I was curious about. I saw like several layers, it seems, of government individuals also who were going to be at the conference. I was curious how that came about, like from their perspective. What are they hoping to?
My friend, that is something that no one is ever going to tell me that. I just know that I'm invited. What the logic is, why now, that sort of inside baseball stuff. Oh, they're not going to tell me.
Gotcha,
Unfortunately,
okay.
I wish they would, but they're not going to. So, yeah. And in fact, there's even like a separate channel just for the forum now. Unbelievable. However, I can tell you that with the speakers, I know most of them already, so that is a good thing. Let me open the actual site there. Who's speaking? Like, for example, Maria Zakharova, I've met her before. She's famous. You all know who she is. Evgeny Primakov, we're homies. He runs Rastoturchество. Olga Guseyeva, Minister of International and Inter-Regional Relations of Nizhny Novgorod. I think I've met her, but I don't remember. Timur is my buddy, the immigration lawyer. Alexander Stefanesco is a big guy in the world of HR. But unfortunately, as a big guy in the world of HR, he'll tell you that there aren't many jobs for foreign people in Russia. Alina Lip, we've interviewed her for this channel. Fabrice Sorlin, I know him. He is a very active French gentleman in the world of Russian politics. John Hare is an Australian who also is a sort of media persona like I am. Martin Held is a tech guru who moved his AI company to Russia. And Angelina Karetkina, we worked together on Tsargrad TV, so it'll be nice to see her, my old colleague there. So those are the people who are involved, at least on the surface. Why they're doing it now, who knows? You know, it's a mystery. So, is that all, Yasmin? Are we good?
Yes, thank you.
All right. And Sam, were you happy with the answer that you got? Sam, you're back on. Were you happy with the answer you got about land and all that? That you're essentially going to have to go into non-medieval Russia to try to buy something, or you just have to buy something and maybe dig your own road to it.
Yeah, that answers it, I guess.
Yeah, but one thing, remember, one thing is until you get Russian citizenship, you can't buy farmland. You can only buy dacha land.
But my wife, who is a citizen, can, I guess.
Yeah, she can buy anything she wants.
Yeah, because we're looking at the different climates, and we're thinking that southern Russia, historic southern Russia, is probably a little bit warmer year round because we're thinking of being there in the wintertime.
Yeah.
So
what specific region? Because since you don't have citizenship yet, this could affect it. Because, dude, every story about citizenship, like the whole bureaucracy from down south, it's always worse. Please don't tell me that you're going to like Krasnodarsky Krai. Don't even tell me.
No, I was thinking like the area around Sea of Azov, that area, like Mariupol and that part of
man,
Russia.
Dude, then that's something that's going to be way in the future. As we just saw, it's really not much is available. Yeah, man, that's something that you're going to have to wait for quite some time before that becomes sort of available and doable. I don't know. I mean, you can go look online, but when it comes to like buying stuff, as I just showed you, the options for even apartments was very skimpy. I don't know, I'd be very suspect of any of that stuff. But
what about Astrakhan? Is that a highly Muslim area, or is it mixed, or what's?
No, but everywhere around the Caucasus Mountains is mixed both ways. You know what I mean? But no, it's a Russian city.
Okay.
But it is quite hot in summer, from what I hear. It is intense. So
yeah, I need to watch more of your travel videos to kind of get a sense of what each area is like a little bit better.
Oh, well, I've never been to Astrakhan. That's one of the regions I haven't been to, so there's no video about that. But and also when I do the tourist videos, I don't really do them in terms of like immigration stuff. But I'll tell you what, the Crimea, Sevastopol, and especially Krasnodarsky Krai are the worst places to try to immigrate to. It's just a nightmare. So again, with this is you have to think of it too a little bit strategic. Is say in the future, I don't know. Let's just say tomorrow, your wife finds this amazing plot of land around Mariupol, and you buy it. Okay, you go there, and you're on. What are you on? A temporary residency, permanent?
Neither. I haven't started yet.
Oh, Mike, what are you doing? What are you waiting for?
Well, we're doing stuff here still, but yeah,
man, dude, you're just
it's like, we're planning 2025.
Man, you're like
2025.
You are walking onto a medieval battlefield, voluntarily taking off your plate armor. You're walking out there in just your underwear just to get slain by arrows, man. You gotta get going on at least temporary residency or something. To give you something, personal protection. So here, I'll put it this way. Okay, so you're at the very start of the road, the hardest part of your journey, right? And you go down to Mariupol, and your wife buys something, which is that whatever LPH or whatever status, where it's like the land where it can be farmland, but you could build a house on it, and everyone's happy, right? You buy that type of status of land. Cool. You'll build a farmhouse. There's still kind of a war going on. How the hell are you going to immigrate? Like, where is the Office of Immigration even functioning, especially for foreigners? You know what I mean? And it's probably in a complete state of pure chaos.
Yeah. Well, we're planning to visit in 2025 and look around and things. So I'm just asking questions.
So you haven't even gotten there.
Questions.
See, the thing is, I'm sorry. See,
no.
Like
the States.
You're still in the States. Oh, okay. Well, that's different. So I take back what I said about you needing to get going on this stuff. Yeah, you can't do anything from America. So yeah, but when it comes to actually being here, people need to really jump at that. I've just been shocked at how many people I've known who have never taken that seriously until the day when their visas get screwed up, and then all of a sudden it becomes this huge issue. So yeah, but if you're still in the States, then yeah, that's just have your wife start looking around, check the computer or the websites where they sell real estate in Russia. Every once in a while, let's try maybe even Yandex. Hold on. Yandex.
I'm really focused on learning the language right now. I'm doing Pimsleur. I'm doing innovative language learning and trying to just use the language as much as I can. I'm reading baby books right now, so got to start somewhere.
Well, the Agnia Bardot, like the Idiot Bichok Kachayatsa, like that stuff.
No, more like ABC books.
Larry, okay.
But I did pick up the two books you recommended, the Green Grammar book and the Russian course by Penguin. I got both of those.
Both of those are great. Absolutely great. And I can tell you, my friend, unfortunately, I'm looking at Yandex, and they also have zero land for sale in the new regions. So, yeah, but wow, is there some stuff cheap? Maybe there is a reason to go down south. So much cheap land. It's crazy. Absolutely crazy. 15 Soltuk for 500,000 rubles. That's like nothing. It's like a drop in the bucket. Unbelievable. So, yeah, there's definitely some really good real estate prices down south. But living down south is a little bit more difficult. It's a little bit more rural, a little bit more old school, so technologically speaking. So, gotta get used to that. But it's fun. So
I'm reading a book about the history of Russia by James Billington right now. It's called The Icon and the Axe. And I was wondering, how strong is Freemasonry in Russia right now? Because apparently up until Alexander the First, it was pretty strong of influence. Are they all gone?
Well, yeah, that's another thing. That's a wonderful invention or innovation of Peter the Great, is he brought in everything Western, including Freemasonry. So you see a lot of Masonic symbolism on buildings, specifically in St. Petersburg. You don't see stuff like that really in Moscow. I would say it really isn't very strong. I mean, you can again, it depends on what conspiracy theories you believe in. If you believe in, let's just say that the Freemasons are these godlike entities, then you won't believe that they have their own website. Moskva. Let's see. Okay, I guess we'll do a screen share. The power of screen sharing, activate. So, like, here's the Masonic Lodge. One of the guys from it tried to run for president at some point. That's in Armenia. But yeah, there is a Freemasons Lodge here in Russia, theoretically. But, you know, I don't know. It doesn't really come up very much. So it's in Postovska Ulica. Where is that? Savyolovskaya. Ugh, that is a crappy neighborhood to be in. So, anyways, yeah. So there is a Masonic Lodge. I don't know if they have a video. Ooh. I don't want to get audio busted on YouTube, but let's say, I don't know. When they start talking, I can probably...
Братья, пандемия, возможно, вынудила нас закрыть наши храмы, подвергнув тяжелым испытаниям наши братские узы и всех людей в мире. Давайте вспомним, что 75 лет назад мы также проходили тяжелейшие...
So according to him, the Freemasons defeated the Nazis. And because of the pandemic, they were forced to close their Freemason Lodge. So there you go. There you go. That shows the power of the Freemasons in Russia. The pandemic defeated them. Although they supposedly somehow defeated the Nazis. So there you go. I think that explains a lot. I think we're done with the screen share. I think that is a spicy meatball right there. Isn't that amazing? So, Sam, are you satisfied with that?
Yeah, I am. I do have one last question. When do you predict, this is just kind of a way out there prediction, that Russia will have its first fully bearded, based and red-pilled leader? Like full beard, just all the way.
Not in our lifetimes. Because the population is not. Also, the guys around Putin are not that kind of guy. Like, none of the people who are sort of in the inner or outer circle of Putin are those kind of guys. They don't think in those terms. They're not. We could try to anyway, Sam. I'll then mute you so that way we don't go in an endless circle between each other here. If someone else wants to call in, go nuts. Yeah, so, but essentially with the Putin and whoever will come next after him, I mean, just look at the people around him, the people who are sort of in powerful positions, like Maria Zakharova. She can't have a beard because she's a woman, but she's not like a nun. You have Sergei Lavrov, shaven, not monk-like. We have Mishustin, the tax man, the prime minister tax man, who's did a really good job. Really, Mishustin knows his stuff. Bald, shaved, kind of Soviet-looking guy. No. Dmitry Medvedev. No, not that kind of guy. He's now become, as I call him, Blood and Guts Medvedev. He's changed his persona, but he hasn't changed his look. Like, Medvedev has become more in your face, but he hasn't become this, like, Dostoevsky-like figure, right? He's not wearing a Robacha shirt with a poyas waistband, right? He's not doing that. Who else? If we look at the generals in the war, and we have, Shoigu is the defense minister. He is not that kind of person. But then again, you know, his ancestors would be more into the whole Buddhist thing. So if he was more traditionalist, he would be more different looking. If you look at the generals, what do we have? Surovikin, Gerasimov. They're Soviet-looking people. They're Soviet-minded, Soviet-looking people. Because a lot of the people who are still in power today are essentially the children of the USSR, as the generation is called. That's my generation. People who are sort of old enough to remember the Soviet Union and sort of be influenced by it in some ways. The people who have come after that, I think, have a lot more potential to be that kind of different sort of leader, but they're not there. Now, the one person in Russian society who's very powerful and influential and who could be a great leader. So we're going to take Dugin out of this because Dugin is a philosopher. He's not like, you also have to understand as though his role would be very interesting. I'll put it that way. But he is an idea man. He is a philosopher. He's not going to be sitting there negotiating, boss, should we make the road 3 lanes wide or 2 lanes wide? If we make it 3 lanes wide, it's going to really increase the cost, boss, and delay things by 3 months. Like, he doesn't want to get into any of that about financing roads. You know, that's not him. A person who could do this, who is that kind of person, who does have the business acumen. Because remember, ironically, for being a former KGB member, Putin knows one hell of a lot about business and the way that international relations work. So who's someone who knows that, who could do like what Putin does, but is also like bearded, super Russian, philosophical, well-spoken guy? Konstantin Malafeyev. Hands down. He could do it. I don't know if Putin would pick him. He could do it. He could fill that role. Oh, no problem. Absolutely. But I don't know if... I don't really think that he'd be the kind of person that Putin would be like, yeah, after me, Konstantin for sure. Gotta be. No. I don't think that would happen. Although that's a very interesting question. Maybe there's some other people I'm forgetting about. Obviously, because Ramzan is the leader of an ethnic republic. Ramzan actually kind of is the... of people in Russia who are actually then in political power. So we take Malafeyev out because he's in the private sector and media sector, which is partially private. Ironically, the most of that type of person who is a little bit, well, he's a lot less philosophical than Malafeyev is, but still is very traditionalist, but has real political power, is Kadyrov. But that's a different religion. And he represents Chechnya and not Russia as a whole. So, ironically, unfortunately, with the exception of the one Muslim Tsar that was in there for not very long, and one of Ivan IV's wives, he's probably not going to be given the gateway to the throne because he's from a different religious background. So, yeah. I'm trying to think if maybe there's someone I'm kind of passing up, because there's a lot of people who are these sort of like don't get named much kind of politicians. Like, you know, there's like, what is it? Pyotr Tolstoy, who runs a lot of like TV shows, but he's also the State Duma. There's that Tsaryov guy in the State Duma, but again, not the bearded philosopher guys. None of them. Look at some pictures of the State Duma. You don't see that kind of guy. When I go there, to be honest, now that I've been invited to the State Duma twice, I'm that I shouldn't be swearing too much. I'm that type of mother flubber. I'm more that guy. Than most people who work at the State Duma. They're still very more modern, very more Soviet, very more shaved, and although they're a lot smarter than I think of Washington's politicians are, that's for damn sure. If there's something that can impress you, it's the quality of priests and a congressman here. Still, they're not that kind of Dostoevsky guy. Fred wants to talk. Fred, we're gonna keep this live stream going. We're breaking all the rules. Fred, remember to unmute yourself with the button that should be at the bottom center of your screen. That looks like a microphone. Hello, Fred Biddy. Maybe it's French. Fred BT. Hello, Fred. Unmute yourself. Do it. Yo, I heard something. I heard a murmur. Or was that a fart? Let's hope not. Fred. Well, can you make sure to hit the button below you? It's right below you. It looks like a microphone. It should turn green when you're talking. And it should wiggle and pulsate when you're talking as well. Oh, here we go. You unmuted yourself. I just saw it. Dude, talk. Talk into your phone's microphone. Come on, you can do it. Oh, no. Well, Fred, you got till 3, 2, 1. I'm sorry, Fred. You're something's wrong with your setup, man. Something's wrong with your setup. So, anyways, it looks like I am going to be hitting the road. Sorry, Fred, I did want to talk to you, but I think that's pretty good enough for our live stream today. I will upload this tomorrow. And anyways, you all have a wonderful evening there. That sounds like a good idea. Everyone should have a wonderful